Unbelievable family drama and betrayal explodes my life. You won't believe the absolute whirlwind of chaos and heartbreak that ripped through my life recently, throwing everything I thought I knew into question and shattering relationships I held dear. It feels like a twisted soap opera, and I somehow ended up as the unwilling star. It all started with my brother, Mark 20s M, who's married to my sister-in-law, Amy 26F. About 2 years ago, they welcomed their first child, my niece, Lisa. Now, here's where things get weird. On our side of the family, both my parents have brown hair and brown eyes. Amy, however, is from Norway and looks distinctly Scandinavian: blonde hair, blue eyes, the works. Little Lisa, she's a spitting image of Amy. Seriously, they look pretty much identical. To me, it never seemed like a problem. Kids inherit traits in all sorts of ways. But about a year ago, Mark started hinting at something deeply unsettling. He began telling me about his coworker who had a daughter that looked just like a female version of him. He claimed everyone said it, that a firstborn daughter is always a spitting image of her father. I didn't find it particularly strange. Genetics is a complex lottery, and what's common isn't a universal law. Kids just inherit traits in surprising and varied ways. Yet, as time went on, his comments grew more pointed, more insistent. Lisa got her blonde hair, he'd say, fixating on individual features. He'd bring it up about other things too, always circling back to this bizarre idea that Lisa should look like him, like a miniature Mark. Then came the bombshell that utterly rocked our family. Mark was demanding Amy take a paternity test. Amy was utterly distraught, pleading with him, trying desperately to explain that Lisa is his daughter. But his paranoia had taken hold. He was threatening her with divorce if she didn't agree to this test, broadcasting his suspicions to anyone who would listen on our side of the family. I finally managed to get him on the phone yesterday. I called him, and for once, he actually picked up. I tried to reason with him, asking if he had any evidence, any reason at all to suspect Amy of cheating. His response left me stunned. He basically admitted he had no evidence whatsoever. When I pressed him on why then, how he could even come to such a devastating conclusion, he repeated that insane theory: firstborn daughters are always behaved and look like their father. He claimed Lisa wasn't behaved like that, whatever that even means in a toddler. And that if that wasn't the case, she should at least have some of his features. I could feel my anger boiling over. It was so utterly nonsensical, so baseless. To ruin his marriage over this delusional belief, he just hung up on me, apparently even angrier at all of us now for questioning his logic. I haven't told Amy the ridiculous reason he gave me, or even that I spoke to him. I honestly don't think she could handle hearing how unhinged his logic is right now. My parents, though, they're actually criticizing me, saying I was extremely unnecessary in how I spoke to him and that I might have ruined our chance to have a mature and serious conversation. Mature? Serious? Based on what evidence? His belief that firstborn daughters are somehow clones of their fathers. Someone online later suggested this sounded less like just anxiety and more like a delusional belief system possibly fueled by pseudoscientific garbage online. They thought it might be better for Amy to just get the test done to burst his bubble with real science, arguing Mark might be mentally ill. Honestly, that thought crossed my mind too. Someone else commented, if I thought there was a chance a kid wasn't mine, I'd just do a DNA test in secret. You're going to blow up your marriage without being sure. And that stuck with me. It just made no sense unless there was something else going on, like maybe projection. One commenter even speculated he might be projecting his own guilt, suggesting he might have cheated. Another person, expressing my exact frustration, simply stated, "NTA, your brother is dumber than a box of rocks." Many echoed that genetics are weird, that kids favor one parent heavily sometimes, or are a mix, and it means absolutely nothing about paternity. They agreed there was nothing wrong with how I reacted to his ridiculous claims. Later, I got a bit more information, though I don't have all the details. Amy told me he just sat her down one day and told her he didn't think Lisa was his. Apparently, he didn't do the test in secret because he wanted to be truthful to her about his suspicions. They had a massive fight, And I don't know who left first, or exactly what awful things were said. All I know is Mark went to a friend's house. And Amy came here. To my place. Amy isn't outright refusing the test, but she's devastated. She's been with Mark for around 7 years. And they had a seemingly great relationship until this. She's mostly just heartbroken by the accusation itself, feeling like her entire relationship might never recover. That the last few years now feel like a lie. The test will happen. I promised to update when the results came in. Fast forward a bit, and I finally had an update. The paternity test was done. The results were back. Lisa is Mark's daughter. Many people online had speculated Mark was cheating, projecting his guilt. But from everything we gathered, he hasn't been unfaithful. As for why he acted this way, why he blew everything up based on nothing, it most likely ties back to severe anxiety issues he had as a teenager. My parents had kept it pretty quiet when I was young. But apparently, he suffered from really bad anxiety back then. His therapist now believes this episode is a resurgence, potentially triggered by something small that he fixated on. What we've pieced together is this: a coworker brought their daughter into the office one day. Afterward, conversations in the lunchroom apparently turned to genetics, with some coworkers showing pictures of their sons who looked just like them. Of course, this wasn't the case for everyone. But Mark, already prone to fixation due to his anxiety, seems to have started obsessing over it. He focused on Lisa's blue eyes and blonde hair. He didn't do the test himself first because, in his twisted anxious logic, he thought being upfront with Amy about knowing her supposed unfaithfulness and demanding the test would make it easier for her to come clean. Right? Amy, thankfully, doesn't want a divorce right now. They're both in couples therapy and individual therapy, trying to navigate the wreckage this has caused. Mark is not completely fine. Far from it. The paternity test results, while confirming his parentage, have just highlighted the depth of his issues. We've been trying desperately to get him into therapy quickly, but finding appointments has been tough. He is incredibly remorseful for everything, though he had a deeply emotional reaction to seeing the test results, holding Lisa and repeatedly telling his little girl how much Daddy loves her while he was here. Talking to my parents more about his past anxiety, they still insisted it was just anxiety, perhaps a severe case that affects him more than others. But from what I've read online, and what others have commented, his behavior, the baseless accusations, the fixation, the paranoia sounds like it could be something more severe, with anxiety possibly being just a symptom. Things like refusing to sit next to someone in a classroom years ago. And now this seemed to go beyond general anxiety. People online have worried he might have outright paranoid delusions, or even be experiencing something similar to the lead-up to a psychotic break, sharing terrifying stories of their own loved one's struggles with schizophrenia and other severe mental illnesses. The concern about my parents downplaying it or not getting him the right help is a major worry. It's incredibly difficult to accept a serious diagnosis in a loved one, especially regarding mental health. But pretending it's just bad anxiety feels incredibly dangerous given what happened. It feels like a compounding problem. And I just desperately hope he gets the help he truly deserves. And just when I thought things couldn't get any crazier, my own life decided to detonate. This happened separately, but around the same chaotic time, adding another layer of unbelievable drama. I, 28M, was engaged to my fiancé. We met at a bookstore where she worked. I went in looking for new books, saw her stocking shelves, thought she was cute, and asked for help finding something. We started talking. I got her number, and things took off beautifully from there. About 2 years in, one proposed. I honestly thought she was something special from the moment we met. I saw a future with her, wanted to build a life together. Our relationship was fantastic. Mostly, the main hurdle was navigating the lingering trauma from her previous relationship with her ex-boyfriend, Ben. They were together for 7 years, and apparently, the entire time was toxic. She said she'd done a lot of self-discovery and healing since then, but the scars ran deep. Ben was a complete mess, couldn't hold a job, slept around with anyone who gave him attention, just a generally awful partner. I was the complete opposite. I had a great job. She was the only woman for me. I treated her with respect, This was all new to her, and it sometimes made her feel insecure. Like she wasn't good enough for me because of her past experiences. I knew she carried a lot of trauma, and I did everything in my power to support her, to help her heal. But I'm not a therapist. I could only do so much. The real work of recovering from that trauma was on her, as much as I hate how it sounds. How insensitive it feels to even say. It seemed like she wasn't fully willing to take those necessary steps. I suggested therapy multiple times, even offered to pay for it. But she always refused. All I could do was hope that maybe with time, things would improve. That she would eventually seek the help she needed. We both worked, but her hours at the bookstore varied wildly. Sometimes she'd start at 10 a.m., sometimes 2 p.m. I was always at work when she was leaving. Since she relied on public transportation, we shared our locations on our iPhones. This wasn't something I'd normally do, but she did several unsettling run-ins with creepy passengers on buses that made her nervous. So it was a simple way for me to ensure she was safe and got home okay. Leading up to the holidays, she started picking up a lot of extra hours, preparing for the madness of Black Friday. This included optional late-night shifts where she'd help set up displays and unpack massive shipments. When she worked late, we wouldn't see each other for dinner. I always offered to pick her up after her shift, no matter how late, because the idea of her being out alone late at night worried me. But she insisted I didn't need to, saying she didn't want to disturb me and would just take the bus home. I told her I would pick her up regardless, but she was adamant about not wanting to be a bother. The first night she worked late and I checked her location. Everything looked fine. She was at the bookstore. But one week, after she'd told me she was only scheduled for 3 late nights, Thursday rolled around, and she said she'd be working late again. I wasn't immediately suspicious. Maybe a coworker called out, or someone else didn't want the hours. It seemed plausible enough. That night, I was still awake around the time she should have been coming home. I checked her location, just like usual. Only this time, she wasn't at the bookstore. She was at Ben's house. My stomach dropped. What in the world was she doing there? Surely, if she had to go over to his place for any reason, she would have told me. It feels incredibly stupid to admit now, but an affair didn't even cross my mind at first. Cheating on me. With him. It seemed impossible. I watched her location stay put for about half an hour. It wasn't moving. I felt weird, like I was spying on her. But the worry was overwhelming. I waited another 10 minutes, around the time she'd normally be home, and called her. No answer. That's when the real anxiety set in. She never ignored my calls or messages. I knew Ben was toxic, that he never had her best interests at heart, based on everything she told me. He wasn't violent, but he was manipulative and hated the idea of her leaving him. I ran through countless scenarios in my head. Was she okay? Was something bad happening? None of them involved her willingly being there with him. Certainly not that. I decided I had to go see for myself. I drove over to Ben's house. There was a car in the driveway, so I assumed he was there. My fiancé's location was still inside the house. I walked up to the front door, but before I even got there, I heard music. It wasn't the kind of music you'd play during some sort of emergency or crisis. It was the kind of music you'd have on a bedroom playlist. That's when the devastating, undeniable truth hit me. Nothing nefarious was happening in the way I had feared. It was worse. I froze on the spot, my mind reeling. I had a pretty good, sickening idea of exactly what was happening inside that house. I ended up just going back to my own house and waiting. She finally came home about 45 minutes after I did. I pretended to be asleep as she got ready for bed, my mind racing, my heart aching with betrayal. The next morning, I asked her about work. She lied through her teeth, telling me it went fine, even inventing some fake drama that happened. She also casually mentioned that the late-night hours would be extended for a couple more weeks. I knew then, without a doubt, that she was planning to keep seeing him, keep lying to me. That same night, knowing the truth, knowing our engagement was effectively over, I started planning. I wasn't going to just call her and break it off quietly. She had humiliated me, betrayed me, and I wanted some kind of revenge. I thought about it for about a week while she was supposedly working late, but was actually with Ben. I came up with the perfect plan. We were hosting our annual Friendsgiving dinner at our house soon. What better time to reveal her affair than in front of all our friends? I almost chickened out, not wanting to ruin the holiday spirit. But the anger and hurt were too strong. Towards the end of the meal, everyone expected me to make a sweet toast to our friendship and my loving fiancé. Instead, right there, in front of everyone, I ended the engagement. My fiancé was absolutely blindsided. Shocked. I think she genuinely thought I was joking at first. But I wasn't. I elaborated, explaining that I knew she hadn't been working late. She'd been going over to her ex-boyfriend Ben's house. She tried to defend herself, to offer some excuse. But she couldn't come up with anything believable. I just told her the engagement was off. That if she wanted to be with Ben so badly, she could go stay with him. After everyone awkwardly left, she came back out from wherever she'd retreated to and started screaming at me for humiliating her. She admitted she'd been sleeping with him again, trying to downplay it by saying that was all it was, as if physical infidelity without emotional attachment somehow wasn't an affair. I called bulls on that immediately. They were together for 7 years. She stayed with him through God knows what. She had to have had deep feelings for him to put up with that much garbage. I told her I wanted her out of my house. She eventually left and did go back to Ben's. I think they're still together. Which, honestly, sounds miserable. All our friends who were there that night were firmly on my side. Some have tried to make excuses for her, suggesting maybe Ben manipulated her into getting back with him because of her past trauma. And while that might be true to some extent, frankly, I just don't care about the reasoning behind it. She cheated on me with a man who treated her like absolute trash, and I just couldn't be with a cheater. So, Reddit. After everything that happened, with my brother's bizarre accusations and my own devastating discovery and public breakup, I have to ask, did I handle everything the way I should have? Was my reaction to my brother fair? Or did it make things worse? And when it came to my fiancé, was revealing the truth at Thanksgiving the right call? Or was I just being cruel? Please let me know your thoughts and opinions. I really need some perspective right now.